Izuki Midoriya is your average, pathetic loser, whose father went out to buy milk and never returned. In a world where people have supernatural abilities called quirks, Midoriya was born as a loser, with no abilities. However, his life changes when he comes across the #1 hero, All Might, who decides to make him his son and grant him his abilities. Exactly a month prior to the present events, Villain Twice approaches Hawks to seek his advice regarding something. At this point, Hawks has managed to completely infiltrate the Paranormal Liberation Front and even got information regarding Shigaraki's experimentation site. In the present, some pro heroes meet at the police headquarters where they discuss their plan regarding the raid on the Liberation Front. It is decided that the heroes will be divided into 2 teams. One of them will ambush the Gunga Mountain Villa, while the other will subjugate Dr. Garaki at the Jaku General Hospital. For those of you that have been living under a rock, Dr. Garaki was Shigaraki's right-hand man and is the guy behind those ugly no moves. As Endeavor, Present Mike, and Eraserhead confront Garaki at the hospital, Mirko makes her way towards the morgue, destroying everything in her. Later on, it is revealed that the old fart Endeavor had confronted was just a double, and the real one is attempting to escape alongside Shigaraki when Mirko confronts him. Mirko reports to the other heroes regarding Garaki and proceeds to kick the living shit out of him. Just then, some other heroes including Crust arrive at the spot as well. Meanwhile, Endeavor and Eraserhead are up against the ugly Nomu on the surface. Using a Nomu as distraction, Garaki manages to activate a device that releases the remaining 5 high ends. One of them ambushes Crush, thus halting them from reaching the lab. Mirko, on the other hand, is fighting 4 high-end Nomus on her own. Well, her arm gets a bit messed up during the battle, but she manages to defeat one of them. With all this going on, the other hero team stationed at the Gunga village also proceeds to ambush the Liberation Front. Their ass is saved by Kaminari, who absorbs an electric attack by a villain. The war is now proceeding in full throttle, with the heroes up against the villains. Tokiyami is assisting Fat Gum to close exits to the assembly hall, where Redistro and the other villains are trapped. Suddenly, Tokiyami's quirk Dark Shadow warns him about the presence of Gigatomachia, but Fat Gum reassures him that he won't move until Shigaraki orders him to. In the meantime, Hawks are preventing Twice from joining the battle. Seeing all this, Twice starts losing his mind and blames himself for ruining everything. Hawks wants Twice to surrender peacefully, but he refuses, and just as Hawks is about to finish him off, Dabi appears at the spot and saves his ass. This provides Twice the opportunity to escape, but Hawks still manages to stab him in the neck. One of Twice's doubles manages to make its way to Toga and apologizes for his mistakes. Meanwhile, Dabi is totally overwhelming the Hawks with his blue flames. He also reveals his identity to Hawks, which shocks him. Until now, Hawks has failed to acquire any information regarding Dabi's past. With all this going on, Mirko is also struggling against the high-end Nomus, and with no other option, she decides to destroy Shigaraki's containment capsule. With Endeavor and Eraserhead's help, she manages to evade the Nomus and destroy the pod when it is 75% complete. Garaki attempts to awaken Shigaraki, but Present Mike destroys the lab before that. After all this, Garaki reveals that he created the quirk Singularity Theory over 70 years ago and was ridiculed by everyone except All for One who supported it. He further reveals that the experiment that created Kurogiri was meant for Eraserhead. Meanwhile, it is revealed that Shigaraki was bestowed upon the original All for One quirk and that his family members have been holding him back. In his vision, he gets rid of all of them as he wakes up in the real world as well. With all of this going on, Tokiyami arrives just in time to save Hawks, and he uses Dabi's useless blabbering to escape. With the heroes and villains still fighting, he manages to escape with injured Hawks. Meanwhile, Shigaraki awakens and unleashes his decay that obliterates some heroes, including Xless. Endeavor and the others have no choice but to run away as the decay keeps obliterating everything around them. Crust even sacrifices himself to save Eraserhead, who is more important to this war. Shigaraki's decay is spreading to the city as well, where Deku and Todoroki are evacuating citizens. They attempt to halt its spread, but fail miserably and have no other choice but to escape. At the hospital site, Shigaraki discovers the quirk Destroying Bullets Garaki had created that were destroyed by Xless. He then hears a mysterious voice in his head ordering him to awaken Gigan Tamachia, and he uses a communicator to summon the giant creature to him. Even though Tokiyami has managed to save Hawks, the war is still going on as Toga also transforms into a hero and goes on a killing spree. Just then, Gigatamachia's hand emerges from beneath and shocks everyone. Meanwhile, Endeavor goes up against Shigaraki and soon realizes that he's no match for him. During the battle, Shigaraki keeps hearing a voice to steal One for All, and Endeavor overhears this as well. He warns Deku and the other heroes about this. Upon hearing this, Deku separates himself from the civilians and makes his way back to the city alongside Bakugo, who wants his revenge. Just then, Shigaraki appears in front of Deku and attempts to steal his quirk. Despite his valiant effort, Deku gets saved by Gran Torino, who appears out of nowhere. Endeavor and the other heroes also appear at the spot, including Eraserhead, who blocks Shigaraki's quirk. However, it is revealed that his overwhelming physical prowess was not because of any quirk. Just then, some random ugly Nomus appear from the ground as well and engage the heroes in combat. The Jakku city has been completely obliterated by Shigaraki, and even the heroes are struggling against him. With the near high-end Nomus distracting the other heroes, only Endeavor and Ryuku are battling Shigaraki. Shigaraki attempts to kill Eraserhead, who was being a nuisance, but Deku arrives in time and saves his teacher. Endeavor then allows Deku and Bakugo to join the battle. Meanwhile, Shigaraki is fighting his inner conscience as he has realized that a part of All for One still persists inside him. With all of this going on, Giga Tamantia carries the villains on its back and rushes towards Shigaraki. Mount Villain attempts to halt the giant's movements with Midnight, using her quirk to put him back to sleep. During all this, Dabi and the others attack Midnight and gravely injure her. With no other option left, she contacts Yaoyuruzo to prepare some anesthetics and take charge of the UA students and attempt to stop the giant. Their plan is to get Giga Tamantia stuck in a place and open his mouth to inject some sedative. Their trap succeeds as the giant gets stuck in the ground, but with the villain still on his back, the heroes cannot reach its mouth. Avoiding Dabi's flames, Mina somehow manages to reach the monster, but she recognizes Giga Tamantia as someone from her past and hesitates enough to miss the shot. Before she gets crushed, Kirishima saves her and hurls the sedatives into the giant's mouth. However, much to their surprise, Giga Tamantia starts transforming. Meanwhile, Shigaraki highlights the issue of heroes abandoning their children to protect others and gravely injures Gran Torino. He also attempts to kill Eraserhead, but Deku and Ryuku hold him off. However, little did they know that Shigaraki actually possesses a quirk, a racing bullet, and launches it towards Eraserhead, hitting him in the leg. To avoid the effects of the bullet, Eraserhead cuts off his leg, but Shigaraki still manages to slice his eye. Just then, Todoroki appears at the spot and saves Eraserhead. Now that Eraser's quirk is undone, Shigaraki unleashes his full potential, only to realize that he was awakened way too early. Meanwhile, the UA students have failed to subjugate Giga Tamantia, who is now heading towards Shigaraki. Suddenly, Deku awakens the quirk Float of Nana Shimura and takes Shigaraki into the air using Whiplash. He proceeds to duel Shigaraki alone in the air as Bakugo and the others spectate from the ground. At this point, Deku is overwhelming Shigaraki with his power, despite his injuries. Seizing the opportunity, Todoroki and Bakugo launch Endeavor into the air so he can finish off Shigaraki with his prominence burned. Even though he's getting burned alive, Shigaraki launches some rivets and stabs Endeavor. He also attempts to stab Deku, but Bakugo pushes him away and he gets stabbed instead. Seeing Bakugo getting stabbed, Deku gets insanely furious and ambushes Shigaraki, who seizes the opportunity to touch his face and steal his quirk. Suddenly, Deku gets transported inside Shigaraki's conscious, where All for One is taking over his body despite his resistance. Deku, on the other hand, is supported by Nana Shimura, as All for One introduces her to Shigaraki as his grandmother. Shigaraki attempts to erode All for One and One for All, but All for One's younger brother repels his attack. After this, both of them reappear in the real world, where All for One instructs Shigaraki to flee and recover his body. In the meantime, the evacuation team has been split into two, with Najiri and Oda going towards the heroes fighting Shigaraki, and Tsuyu and Achako aiding the evacuation team. During all of this, Toga notices Achako and confronts her as an old woman. Following some weird conversation, Achako manages to throw her off and confront her. Meanwhile, a hero flies towards the battlefield on a plane, while Todoroki saves Deku, Bakugo, and Endeavor from falling. They're surprised to see Shigaraki still standing, ignoring All for One's orders to retreat. Najiri and Ida also show up to warn about Giga Tamanchia's rampage. Najiri helps Shoto fight Shigaraki, while Ida helps the injured heroes. Achako and Toga fight in an abandoned house. Toga reveals she used Achako's power to kill someone, shocking Achako. They fight over Deku's Christmas gift as Achako warns Toga of consequences, making her cry. Just then, Tsuyu appears at the spot and helps Achako, but Toga somehow manages to escape. This makes Achako wonder the reason behind Toga's tears. In the meantime, Giga Tamantia arrives, taking Shigaraki. Dabi then reveals himself as Toya Todoroki on TV. Skeptic hacks TVs, airing Dabi's confession of being Endeavor's son and his abusive past. Endeavor and Shoto are horrified. Dabi prepares to attack, but Best Jeanist restrains him and other villains. Best Jeanist uses his metal fibers to restrain Giga Tamantia and the League, surprising Dabi with his survival. Spinner tries to wake Shigaraki to give Giga Tamantia orders, and before Najiri can blast them, Dabi burns her with his flames. Just then, the near high-end Nomus battling the heroes escape from the group and attack Jeanist. Deku wants to assist the heroes, but his broken-ass body doesn't allow him to. Suddenly, Mirio appears at the spot, as it is revealed that Eri used her quirk to rewind the effect of that quirk-destroying bullet. Bakugo, Lita, and the others assist Mirio in battling the Nomus, as Bakugo reveals his hero name as well, which is quite embarrassing. but Mirio likes it. In the meantime, Todoroki is getting overpowered by Dabi, while Endeavor is still shocked by this revelation. Giga Tamashia also breaks free from Genis' restraints, but Endeavor manages to put him back into sleep as the anesthetics used by UA students finally take effect. With this, the war is finally reaching its climax. Mr. Compress recalls back on their encounter with the Meta Liberation Army as Spinner cites his doubts on Shigaraki's plan for their future. In the present, Mr. Compress manages to free himself from Genis' grip using his own quirk. This further allows him to compress Shigaraki and Spinner and escape to Giga Tamachia's back. Meanwhile, Dabi absolutely folds Todoroki in their battle and escapes after Endeavor loses consciousness. After all this, Compress sacrifices himself to let Shigaraki and Spinner escape from the spot and also reveals that he is the great-great-great-grandson of some random old fart. Meanwhile, Deku acquires the quirk of the fourth one-for-all user as his head starts pounding. This quirk is actually Danger Sense, and it was warning him about Shigaraki's sudden radio waves that knocks out the other heroes. With this, Spinner also realizes that All For One has taken over Shigaraki's body because it wasn't prepared. They also managed to escape with some random Nomu carrying them. Well, they betrayed Giga Tamashia and left him behind to rot. In the aftermath of this war, the entire city was devastated. There was many casualties, including some pro-heroes, and the injured ones were taken to the hospital. Meanwhile, Compress and the villains that were left behind, including Giga Tamashia, Redestro, and the 16,000 members of the Paranormal Liberation Front were arrested. Even though heroes like Ochako and Tsuyu are helping the civilians, most of the heroes have lost the will to fight and are contemplating retiring. They believe that the work is no longer worth it since they have failed to save the city. The UA students also discover the dead body of Midnight and mourn over her death. Amidst all this chaos, the civilians are still wondering about Dabi's revelation and how Endeavor will react over it. Furthermore, All For One inside of Shigaraki's body orders some Nomus to ambush Tartarus and free his actual body. With some high-end Nomus alongside him, All For One inside Shigaraki's body manages to invade Tartarus and free some prisoners. In case you don't know, Tartarus is the prison where the worst villains are kept. The Nomus ambush the prison and make their way towards the main facility on the island. During all this, Shigaraki attempts to regain control over his body, but fails miserably. After freeing the villains, All For One announces himself to be some demon lord and sends in Nomus to invade other prisons around the country. Meanwhile, Bakugo also awakens from his slumber and learns about everything related to the war. It is also revealed that Gran Torino and Eraserhead are still alive, but are in critical condition. Todoroki also wakes up and announces that he'll take down his brother, as Deku is still in a comatose state watched over by All Might. With all of this going on, it is revealed that Kigo Takami is Hawk's real name, and he is actually the son of a villain. He used to watch heroes on the television, but used to believe that they are myths. However, after witnessing Endeavor arrest his father, his faith in heroes reawakens. Now that Hawks and his mother are on the streets, his mother literally begs him to earn them something with his quirk. Just then, Hawk saves someone using his quirk and is approached by the Hero Public Safety Commission, and this is how Kigo Takami became a hero. In the present, Best Jeanist and Hawks visit his mother's home, where they come across a letter stating that Dabi sent some men and forced her to reveal his past. Seeing all this chaos, he regrets not being able to save his own mother and vows to help Endeavor. In the meantime, Endeavor also reawakened in the hospital, where his family visits him and he apologizes for his sins. Rei also decides that it is about time they talk about Toya. The Todoroki then reminisce about their past that led to the current state of affairs. When Toya was born, Inji and Rei had discovered that he possessed more firepower than his father, but his body was not resistant to fire. In order to protect him, Inji ceases all his training and decides to have more kids to break his resolve. After some time, Rei finally gives birth to Shoto, who possesses the ultimate quirk combination. Seeing all this attention his brother was getting, Toya had a breakdown and almost attacked Shoto. With no other option left, Inji bans all interaction between the two, and Toya grows up being emotionally distraught from his own parents and siblings. Despite all these restrictions, Toya continues training to the point that his flame changes color from red to blue. All he wanted was to impress his father, but it backfired as Inji took out his anger on Rei. Following all this, Toya's quirk goes berserk, and he burns down an entire mountain. In the present, Rei tells Endeavor that all of them are responsible for how Toya turned out. Just then, Hawks and Best Jeanist appear at the spot and question Endeavor regarding One For All. They tell him that the public is also curious about this mysterious power that has led to so many casualties. With all of this going on, Izuku wakes up in the consciousness where he meets up with the previous users of One For All. According to them, with the increasing growth of One For All's power and All For One's intervention, they are able to freely communicate inside this realm. Following some random conversation, it is surmised that Izuku might be the last wielder of One For All, owing to the fact that there are less quirkless people in this world, and this quirk shortens the lifespan of those with quirks. The conversation proceeds as Nana Shimura and the other users want Izuku to kill Shigaraki, but Izuku wants to save him. Meanwhile, Hawks and Best Jeanist confront All Might, who tells them everything about One For All. Later on, Eraserhead and the others hold a press conference, unleashing their statement regarding Dabi, and also the fact that they'll turn UA High into an evacuation center. With all of this going on, Izuku leaves some letters for his classmates, telling them everything about his quirk, and leaves the school. Some weak students from Ketsubutsu Academy come across Muscular while they were attempting to evacuate some civilians. Muscular beats the living out of them, but Deku comes in clutch and saves their sorry ass. Muscular underestimates Deku, only to regret it later on as Deku absolutely folds him. With this, he hands over Muscular to the police and meets up with All Might, who attempts to stop him. Deku, however, ignores him, just like my crush ignores me, and heads over to confront more villains. Before all this, Izuku wakes up in the hospital following his meeting with Nana Shimura and the others. He and All Might reveal everything related to Deku's quirk to his mother. Both of them team up with Hawks and the others to lure out the villains using Deku as bait. Deku rescues a tall mutant woman from panicking people who think she's a villain. All Might helps her to safety. While checking the city for One For All users, Deku remembers to talk with the Vestiges. The first user, Yuichi, asks the second and third users to assist Deku. They come from a time when All For One was strong, and they fought against him. They disagree with Deku's hopeful ideas, but Yuichi reminds them how they spared him for All For One, letting One For All grow. They decide to join him. Later, Endeavor faces angry civilians who criticize him for hiding things and failing. Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Jeanist talk about All For One's plans, as they think he wants to take over Shigaraki's body and needs his hatred to steal One For All. Just then, Deku's GPS stops working, and All Might's car gets attacked. Lady Najant, a former hero, shoots at Deku with a quirk rifle sent by All For One. She's with Overhaul, who she rescued, agreeing to capture Deku for payment and a new quirk. Two thugs corner All Might, but he scares them off with his determination to protect Deku. Deku swings through the city towards Lady Nagant's location, but is surprised by more bullets. He realizes she was given another quirk by All For One to lure him closer. Deku uses Smokescreen and Fa Jin to outsmart Najant and capture her. He asks why she follows All For One despite being a pro-hero. Najant reveals she was once an assassin for the Commission, killing corrupt heroes and potential villains. Over time, she grew disillusioned and killed her superior. Deku acknowledges the complexity of right and wrong, but still wants to help. Najant aims at Overhaul, but Deku saves him using Fa Jin. He defeats Najant, but saves her from falling, urging her to join their fight. Before she can respond, a failsafe inside her explodes. Hawks rescues her, and Najant reveals All For One's location before passing away. Endeavor captures Overhaul. Deku vows to honor Najant's promise by making All For One regret his actions towards Eri. As he witnesses Najant's death, Deku's anger towards All For One intensifies. Deku and the top three heroes, along with the lurkers, find All For One's hideout deserted. All For One, however, pulls an Uno reverse on them and leaves a message, mocking Deku, and triggers the mansion to explode. The heroes escape and regroup to plan their next move. Meanwhile, Deku swiftly deals with a second assailant, while All Might urges him to rest. Deku, feeling he can use One For All without consequences, leaves All Might behind. Over the next few days, Deku tirelessly helps people in the city, ignoring advice to take it easy. His appearance becomes more intimidating, sparking rumors that he's a Nomu, but he persists to bring smiles back. Exhausted, Deku collapses in Kamino, facing another attacker named Dictator. Unable to fight, he's overwhelmed until Bakugo rescues him. Class 1A, after receiving Deku's letters, learns of his alliance with Endeavor and decides to help him. They confront Deku, who refuses their aid and prepares to fight. Deku tries to run from his classmates, but they all work together to stop him. Each Class 1A student reminds him of the kindness he showed them in the past and how much they care about him. Despite their efforts, Deku is determined to protect them from danger. As he prepares to use a risky move to escape, Class 1A builds a ramp to reach him. Ida recalls Deku's words about heroes helping without being asked, convincing Deku to reconsider. Bakugo apologizes for his past behavior and admits that he was a piece of shit in the past. Deku finally relents and apologizes before passing out. He wakes up outside UA, where a crowd confronts him. Aware of the danger he poses, Ochako reassures him, urging him to stay. The useless civilians are still against Izuku's presence in the UA and demand that they kick him out. Best Jeanist attempts to explain everything to them, but it makes the matters worse. With no other option left, Ochako grabs a megaphone and floats on the top of UA and urges the people to let Izuku rest. Upon hearing this, they finally realize just how tired and battered the guy actually is. Deku also breaks down and falls on his knees. One by one, the civilians show their support to Deku, who vows to return everything to normal. Meanwhile, All Might is out searching for villains as if he can do shit to them with this body. Little does he know that Stain is actually following him. All Might arrives at the Camino battleground feeling like he's let down as a teacher and hero. Just then, Stain challenges him, doubting his identity despite All Might's brief reveal of his muscle form. All Might shares his frustrations about the world's condition, but Stain shows him a girl who cleans the vandalized All Might statue daily, inspired by him. Stain believes it's All Might's ability to inspire that truly makes him great. He gives All Might a data disk from Tartarus and leaves, urging All Might to kill him when the time is right. At UA, the boys help Izuku relax in a bath, but Kugo reaffirms their rivalry even after apologizing. All Might apologizes to Izuku and informs everyone about the upcoming final battle. Heading out to prepare, Izuku finally sleeps, and his classmates vow to restore the world. All Might meets with Namasa Tazuchi and the police force to decode Tartarus data. They learn that All For One can communicate with his real self through Shigaraki, whose body will be complete in 3 days. All Might seeks aid from foreign heroes, and despite global issues, America's hero Star and Stripe is on her way to help. Izuku wakes from a nightmare to find comfort in his classmates' support as they prepare to save the day together. That's it, folks. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything.